Okay, it is recording. Welcome everybody. Welcome back after our little hiatus. We had a little bit of a summer hiatus from doing these Zoom webinars. Thank you all for joining us at a slightly different time than we usually record these. This is to accommodate Wei, who is our special guest today, but I will turn it over to Adam to greet you all and to introduce Wei, and we'll get started. So Adam.
All right. First of all, and I just looking at some of the comments, and it's true. We have to acknowledge that Dorothy Mantooth is a saint who remained sexually active right up till her death, and beyond that, I feel like, why am I even introducing Wei? Like, he should introduce us. Like, it's Wei. It's Wei Koh. It's Wei fucking Koh. But for everybody who's joining, first of all, thank you, obviously, for being here. And we're pretty excited. You know, we haven't had Wei on, and we've been doing a lot of Zooms. And in fact, the reason that we haven't had so many Zooms lately is we feel like people are getting a little zoomed out. And I know, for instance, Kathleen was on Zooms all day today. As a matter of fact, we talked earlier today via Zoom. I know that Wei's half of his life now is Zoom. We're all stuck at home doing this, but we actually have a lot of cool things to talk about. God forbid you don't know who Wei is, which you should. In spite of being the sartorial god that he is, he also founded two amazing magazines. The first of which has special meaning for me, is Revolution, since I write for them. And it's probably got the best production value of any magazine. I'm just going to say that, I'm not biased. And then the Rake, which is his other passion, which is fashion. As a matter of fact, I think we see some of your shoes behind you there.
Yes, none of which I've used.
I have to say, this is funny because I've been on a Zoom with you before. I know you've spoken to some of our chapters and stuff, and I love how, you know, we all have kind of the same background. Like Kathleen, I'm always seeing like where she's sitting, the portrait. With me, it's just in my corner in the living room. I got the RedBar thing in the back. I put that there specifically so it looks like I'm professional. And see, there's Revolution magazine right there. You know, so I do it cool. And then you've got your shoes, which is pretty cool.
I mean, I could do that but I'd have to be in my walk-in closet. But like, I have a shoe wall, and I hope you appreciate this Way. When this apartment, I renovated it completely, and I built a custom walk-in closet with an entire wall just for shoes. That's
fantastic.
Yeah. So,
the shoe thing actually brings up the first question I'd like to ask. So, Adam, how is it going with the sort of alternate revenue stream of you taking pictures of your feet for foot fetishists?
Okay, you know, it was something that initially I was just doing for fun. I never really thought that it could turn into a professional concern. And look, obviously, as a parent, you know, living during these trying times, I think every little bit counts, you know, in terms of money. But after a few sort of high profile, shall we say, offers, I just realized, like, you know what, not only is it something that I can do for myself and my family, but it's also something that I can do for the world, because this is something people want, clearly. And who am I to say, you know, no, I'm going to hide these feet away and you can't have them. So it's not something I'm going to say that, like, I woke up, you know, as a child and was like, I want to be a foot professional foot fetisher person. I won't say foot model, I think, because I don't want to take away from the people who are the true professionals. But yeah, you know, I think it's times like this that you find yourself.
You know, I think you clearly have photogenic feet. You know, otherwise I don't think the offers would be rolling in the way that they have. I think that you can't
cover Kathleen's side of the thing.
I think
thank you for asking.
This gift to humanity, and I think if there are people out there that want to appreciate, you know, your feet in whatever capacity, you got to let them. You know.
You have to do that. And so I have been doing that. But thank you for bringing that up. I know that really wasn't part of what we wanted to cover here, but it is something I am proud of. It's definitely a part of who I am. I think if you love, you know, me and what I do with watches and the community, then you also have to love my feet. So Kathleen will have a different view on that. She's probably going to send you a little something later about why did you bring that up? But that's going to be between you guys.
It'll be fine. We'll work. We'll eventually
So,
with that situation. But
whew. But look, we've got some stuff to cover here, and I know we've just been, you know, chilling, catching up, which is great. But one of the first things, and I don't know if anybody had noticed, I did post a photo of it before in a story, but I have my hands on the latest and greatest from the Revolution limited edition machine. And if I could just preface this by saying I'm also wearing my Dark Star, that there is something to be said about what you guys, and well, you in particular, but let's, you know, the Revolution, the Rake brings to the table when you guys do your limited editions. A lot of thought goes into this. And also, if anybody reads, you know, your write-ups for these pieces, it's a wonderful kind of, you know, free-form look into your head, which is a crazy place to live. So I know you have to live there, but in terms of everything that goes into every detail and how it kind of fits in with your worldview and how fashion, horology are parts of your life. So maybe you could talk us a little bit through the process for that watch and maybe how it relates to the other pieces you're doing. I do have the watch right here. As soon as I open my wine, then I'm gonna show that off.
Awesome. Yeah, you know, and this is something that is clearly really evident when I came to New York and was hanging out with RedBar guys. People are very passionate, but they're very discerning as well, right?
Yes.
And you know, you can't kind of approach these limited editions opportunistically. You actually have to make watches that people genuinely want, right? And so what we always look for is like, you know, why does that particular watch not exist? So in the case of the Bundeswehr, the Sin, or if that had been made by Tag Heuer, that would have been equally sort of justified. That's a watch, like I wish that watch like existed. It just doesn't, right? And so for the Harnhart 417, I've always loved the fact that, you know, Steve McQueen had worn that watch, especially when he was motorcycling, and it was just such a cool watch. But they made like different kind of versions of it over the years, but they never quite kind of got it right in terms of never getting it back to its original proportions, which meant the bezel be really thin. You needed to have kind of a domed sapphire or acrylic, and it had to be relatively flat, better with a manual wind movement, and you know, cool on a bund strap. And so the great thing about the guys over at Harnhart is when we pitched it to them a couple of years back, they actually were really into it. I think what was super important also was this whole idea that cool watches don't have to be ridiculously expensive as well, right?
Yeah, you've gotten that right consistently.
Well, no, thank you. You know, and you know, it was the same thing with, you know, when we did our Zenith, our cover girl, we spoke to the guys at Zenith and we're like, listen, we don't want to charge a premium on this watch relative to the regular production version, because we want to give a gift, or we want to hook up our readership. Because, you know, again, when you approach these limited edition things, if you all of a sudden charge like a big premium on it, and, you know, which I know is kind of like the objective of other companies, not just in watches, all of a sudden there's something a little bit, I don't know, sort of, overly opportunistic about it, and I just don't like that.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think, you know, within reason, certainly, but again, that's something that you guys have been great about.
Well, yeah, thanks. And yeah, so when we did like our RWC, for example, we thought like, you know, we wanted to keep the price very reasonable, pretty much in the ballpark of a normal sort of Mark 11. The Zenith the same way, the Tag Heuer the same way, with the Sin as well. You know, that was not a. I mean, watches to begin with are expensive relative to other objects. And you know, in the context of 2020 as well, man, it's like you know, there's no one that hasn't been in some way or another financially impacted, and if you're kind of blind to that reality, then I don't know what the hell, you know, drugs you've been taking. I'd like to get some of those as well.
I would like some too.
Can I have that? That sounds good.
I'm coming over to your place because Liz is watching me like a hawk these days. That's my wife. She does exist, people.
I swear, I've seen her in real life and everything. She's.
Some people don't think she exists because they don't think that anybody would put up with my bullshit.
I mean, it is hard to believe, but she does exist.
She's a saint.
Yeah.
Did you say she went to Eunice?
She did. Yeah,
cool.
she her sister and her brother.
That's
I remember you. You had longer hair. You were a little bigger.
Yes. I was a long-haired drunk guy. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah. So the point is it's you know, and I think one of the conversations is also like, what's the relevance of watches after this year, and will brands and people's, you know, like will they be affected? Of course they will. And then I think one of the key things is that value is going to become a super important thing, right? It always has been, but I think that has become a priority now in the industry. And I think that brands, if they're smart, are going to go out of their way to offer, watch lovers extraordinary value in terms of what they can get. And I mean this across all price categories, but
Right.
related to Harnhart, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get a great watch with, absolutely no compromise for under $2,000, and I have to say, actually, the category of watches even under $1,000 has been blowing up, and there's some amazing watches out there. Like if you look at like some of the stuff that Hamilton's been doing, Baltic has been doing. There's these guys out in Hong Kong called Undone, and we started working with them as well.
Yeah.
About like a tropical version of a Type 20. And it's like a $300 watch, and yeah, I get it. It's got a Seiko movement in there. It's a Mecca quartz. So, but it's still, and there's no reason why people shouldn't enjoy these watches. And, it's interesting because there's been theories that like, oh, we got to get Apple watches onto people's wrists because then young people will like watches and eventually they'll convert over to mechanical watches. It's like, dude, why don't you just get dope ass watches at an affordable price on their wrist to begin with? Right?
Yeah, maybe let's just cut the middleman out there. Not to take anything away from an Apple Watch. I did get one just to see what the hype is, and I enjoy it, but I still don't feel right unless I have that on. But I think it can be a gateway, but we can have real gateway drugs now that are just as addictive and bad for you. I do think what Undone's been doing is very cool. The price point's great. Baltic, we don't even have to go. I mean, I love those guys. Their Worn and Wound limited edition was fantastic. I did not get it on that, unfortunately. Hamilton, my favorite COVID purchase is the PSR.
Yeah, I picked up 2 Baltics during quarantine.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? I will wear like a different watch to take a photo. Yes. I don't want nobody wants to see it. But then when I'm wearing a watch every day, I'm wearing that stupid watch, and I get so many comments. And just picking up my prescription at the local drugstore, and the pharmacist is like, "Hey, what watch you wear there? It's not it's a big gold watch, but it look like a watch from the past. May I see it?" And I'm like, yeah, it's actually, so I'm just saying it makes me smile. And guess what? I actually was able to afford it and still keep my children.
Absolutely. Kathleen, what Baltics did you pick up?
She's got some nice shit. I don't like her.
I got the bronze Aquascaphe.
Nice.
Which I actually bought that because it's a little bit of a long story. So when my spouse and I split up, we divided our watch collection, and one of the watches that I gave to him, or in the split, was the Carl Brashear for Morris, and I was like,
yeah, that's a nice one.
I don't have a bronze watch, right? So when that came out, I was like, it's bronze, it's smaller, so it's more wearable for me because I have a small wrist. And the price point can't be beat. So I fortunately got in like right under the wire. It was sold out like 15 minutes after I bought it, I think.
Right.
I gotta say, those guys, their customer service is amazing. The watch came here faster than I get packages from like New York. Like it, it's like overseas mail. It showed up really fast. Their packaging is amazing, but like the watch is really cool, and for the price point, it's like, I think it was 600 and something euros or something like that. I can't remember the price now, but it's
great watch.
It's such a good watch for the price. You can't really beat it. And like when I think about the number of watches that I have purchased during quarantine, which is an alarming amount.
I was going to say, you really have been on a tear in a good way that I wish I could emulate.
Like one of them is literally this Pac-Man Timex.
Yes, we have. Yeah, I need to see that. I have to come by actually, like social distance wise, to pick up some stuff. But like, I would like to see that watch from 6 feet away.
I'm gonna stand 6 feet away from you and like throw the Wolf RedBar watch roll at your head.
Can we just also say that in general, she's always, since I've known her, which is longer than either of us care to admit, that she's always tried to keep 6 feet away from me. So I do give you credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, our friendship is actually old enough to drink in this country.
Which is, yeah. Yeah.
But no, to be fair, like most of the watches I've picked up have been like G-Shocks and a Timex and a few swatches.
Yeah.
But the Baltics were like, even though they were, you know, a few hundred, you know, like they were several €100, it was still like, I feel like I can just treat myself a little bit to this. And I don't feel super guilty about it because the price point is fine. Like, I'm not going to be mad at myself when I look at my credit card statement.
Yes.
And it's a super good, super nice quality watch. And like, those guys have been knocking it out of the park with the limited editions they did with Worn and Wound.
Yes.
Oh my God, they're so gorgeous.
I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And the amazing thing about those watches, or you know, whether it's a Pulsar or Hamilton, the experience of wearing those watches on your wrist, it's still an amazing experience. There's no compromise to that experience, which I think is and it was very interesting. You know, I know we're going to talk about this in a bit, but when we had those in our charity auction, and what was incredible about that was when we announced our charity auction, it was a reader who basically reached out and said, "Hey, I want to donate my Baltic Worn and Wound
That's
time
awesome.
only." And then another reader was like, "Hey, since that guy donated that watch, I'm going to donate the chrono version of that watch." And those watches actually performed incredibly well. I mean, they went for like, you know, like 5-6 times their retail value.
That's wonderful.
And that's really cool, you know. And I guess another brand that's been crushing it as well is Tudor. You know, like the Black Bay 58 Blue is insane.
Don't even start with me on that. You know, so they first of all, let's just give these guys credit. Some people I think were a little upset seeing them everywhere when it launched because they pretty much sent one to everybody to test out. There was one sitting on my grandmother's grave in Binghamton, New York. And it was a real problem in terms of just someone, we needed to get it and send it back because it's Tudor, which is Rolex. They'll get it back or they'll find you. So I had mine I was supposed to send it back like by a certain date. I kept it an extra week or two, and trust me, like they had people outside my building. But it was hard to give that fucking watch back. And the price is right. Of course, the problem with that, which is another, you know, issue in the industry, is just supply and demand for some pieces, where I feel in some issues it's a little artificial and not necessary. In this case, I know that they made as many as they could and they make other watches, but yeah, you can't just walk into your local AD and get one. But you know what? It hasn't gone too crazy on the secondary market, but I'm telling you, people, it's not hype, that watch. And you can say that I prefer the original BB58. You can say you prefer the blue one. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm partial to the blue because I have a blue snowflake that's one of my favorite watches ever. But that's a watch that I can wear, you know, that I don't worry about if I forget to take it off and I'm jumping in the shower, jumping in a pool, or what. I mean, if you can beat on it. As a matter of fact, one guy, Serge, I forgot his exact account, he kind of pulled a Mr. Enthusiast with his. I don't know if you've seen what Phil Toledano did with his P01, but the guy kind of did the same thing with his Black Bay 58 Blue, navy blue. And my God, I'm not going to lie, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks like a vintage watch. Yeah. Well, no, what's incredible about this thing is it's also like, if you look at the price of the watch on the strap relative to the metal bracelet, it's just a couple $100 more, right?
Yeah,
but
it's not that. It's kind of a no-brainer.
And the bracelet is such a high quality bracelet. I mean, first from a design perspective, it looks like one of the old riveted bracelets. But then when you put it on, like the clasp, the feel of the bracelet, it's just crushing it. You know? And it
does let down some brands, and they actually get it right.
Yes,
it looks great. You got your blue shirt on. I mean, you're all ready to go.
You know, I accessorized. You know,
you have to.
It's got a ceramic, you know, bezel insert as well. I mean, it's got a freaking in-house movement now, right? With a silicone hairspring, you know, and a oscillator. It's for
what's the power reserve, like 70 hours?
Yeah, I mean, for that money, which is still okay. Let's face it, it's not an insubstantial amount of money, but relative to the rest of the market, it's just crushing it. And I think that's really where watch brands need to have their head, right?
Yeah. And you know, look, they are lucky because they do have the crown behind them. They're able, I think, you know, in terms of scaling up, to bring pieces like that to the table. We can't say that every brand is able to create a movement like that and a watch like that and a case like that and bring it to you at a price like that. But you know, one of our favorites is Oris. We talked about it a little bit earlier with Kathleen and the bronze, and this is their price point already. They know, and what I love is they know who they are. You're not going to find a Halo tourbillon minute repeater in platinum and sapphire case, like from Oris, they're going to keep giving you solid watches. I actually like their old campaign, which was real watches for real people.
Yes.
The go in your own way thing, it's not resonating with me, but that's fine. But I've got 2 of them. Obviously, we did a limited edition with them that is still one of my favorite watches ever. But the price point just makes sense. They know who they are. They know who their audience is. And now is a great time, I think, for them in that sense, like that's a market that they've already been in.
Right.
But you know, we're talking about all this stuff. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here with this lovely case and this lovely watch in here. We talked about bronze before even, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest bronze fan. I feel like I patina enough myself that I don't need to see my watches doing. And Kathleen, again, given how long we've known each other, she's watched me patina in real time, and I'm definitely patinated.
You were much more patinated than you were when we met. I'm like,
when she met me, I was actually good looking. So I'm just going to just let people chew on that for a second. I was. That was a long time ago. See, it was a long, now look at me. But I was lucky enough, thank you to everybody, you know, at the home office for getting me this watch away, because it was very quick. And again, I'm just going to take it out of the case, and I'm just going to show it to people. First of all, it comes with this, you know, and then you just open this beautiful thing up, and now I'm just going to take the watch out. I have been wearing the hell out of it, and I mean, this is it. And again, the lighting here sucks, but everything about this watch literally harkens to the original. But your rationale for doing bronze, I think, is an interesting one. Also, I never liked bund straps until you came along. So you did that to me, you magnificent bastard. But I will say this watch is fantastic. I saw my mother today. I have to see her often, which, you know, is annoying to me. But I need her to keep me in the will, so I have to do this. And while she did not notice the watch or care, I had to get gas. By the way, there are no gas stations in New York City anymore. So there's only one shitty gas station that I found. And then I needed air for my tires. They were going to charge me for air. You're not really allowed to do that. But I made a little stink. And so I did not have to pay the $1 for air. And then the guy goes, "That is a great watch. What are you wearing?" It looks like IWC. Is it IWC? No. And I go, "No, actually." And I had a long talk with this guy about the watch and what it was. He's like, this is better than IWC. How much? and we had a long talk about that and the whole thing. He wants to subscribe to Revolution now. Maybe he will. I gave him all the information, but I mean, it was interesting that he saw it, and it was instantly something that we had to talk about. And then even in these COVID times, we're both wearing masks, we're standing apart, and I'm kind of like trying to like hear. And I just, you know, as somebody who, you know, is into this, I love it when people ask me about my watches. I also love it when I can show a piece like this and say, and it's, you know, it's, let's just call it $1,900. It's a lot of money, and we do have to respect that number. I think we get a little like, oh, it's only $5,000. Like,
yeah,
$5,000 is $5,000. Like, yeah, I hate to say it, even when you say, oh, the watch is only $600, most people,
that's a lot.
Even rich people don't spend that kind of money. Like, we're definitely the exception. So like you said, there are different price points. You can have a $10,000 watch, but if you're offering $10,000 of just say perceived value, great. But a lot of brands aren't really doing that. They don't bring it to the table. That's what's killing me with this. And now, people, I'm just going to tell you right now, because we are constrained by Apple, at least in my case, stupid cameras. I'm going to be posting a lot more pictures before I have to send this baby back. But it is fantastic. And so, all right, you go on and talk. I am literally saying this. And guess what, people? I have to pay for these things. As much as I love Wei, he didn't send this to me for free. I am going to pass on this one, unfortunately, and we'll find out why. Because again, I have children, and money is money, but it's killing me. The longer I have this, I might actually change my mind about that. So, all right, but Wei, talk a little bit about how you went about doing this watch.
Well, the first thing I think that you mentioned was why we decided to go with bronze, right? And I think that was kind of interesting. So that, Harnhart was, a German manufacturer of chronographs, and in 1941 they created the, that basically that watch, the 417, the two-pusher military chronograph. And then from 56 to 58, they kind of they made another 1,000 pieces, 500 in steel and 500 in brass, coated with chrome, right? And actually those watches are really cool because when the chrome wears off, as it does, it creates this color that's kind of similar to bronze. And that was the inspiration for making the bronze watch, And again, the bronze watch. So Harnhart is going to come up with a regular production version of that watch, I think, at the end of the year in steel. But we wanted to price the bronze watch at exactly the same price that they're going to come up with their steel watch. So that was the rationale.
Again, that's an example of keeping the price right. Typically, people are going to charge a premium for the material. I will say this one is starting to patina. I try not to wear it too much because I'm pretty gross, so I patina things a lot faster than the average person does. But the strap, it's on the Bund. I also want to just say, and not that anybody really would notice or care, but I do, it's an Alcantara back end. Like you actually kind of one-upped the material here. It's very comfortable and actually very nice to wear even in hot weather.
It's not necessarily the type of thing. And I noticed you posted a picture of the Dark Star in the middle of the New York heat. And so we wanted to make it.
I think I need to go back to the beginning here with Anchorman. Yeah, it was like milk was the complete wrong decision. It's not refreshing at all. So I really, it's funny. I just, I woke up and I'm like, I want to wear this watch today, and I'm going to wear this watch today. And I think it was maybe within 5 minutes of being outside that I'm like, yeah, this was the entirely wrong decision today. But I love the watch so much, and you always give a little selection. We've got a couple of great NATOs that it comes with, but I put it on a NATO once. I wore it in the pool. And then after that, this watch has to be worn on the Bund. And I'll be honest, again, this does look fantastic if you take it off. I have, and I do have some other options that I'm going to show people with it before I send it back. But the Bund strap really I've fallen in love. I just love these straps. I never liked them before, and I have to say, it's just one thing that's killing me. And again, this is part of the world we live in today. That typically this watch would have already been at RedBar, and somebody wants to meet up, and I'll be like, hey, check it out. So I've got to figure out some ways to get this in front of some of the people in the city before I send it back. But it really is that good. I know it sounds like I'm just blowing sunshine up your ass, but you're so far away, I don't have to, because you can't come and beat me up. So
it's true. Some ideas we can get,
Kathleen can.
I can beat him up for you, Wei, if you want.
Even from 6 feet away, she can kick my ass. It's terrible. Or she just calls my wife. It's like, can you smack him for me? And I'm like, what was that? Kathleen called. Oh.
Right. But I was thinking, you can get the watch, you get a long hook, and you can put the hook and hold it 6 feet. And then the person.
We only live on the 3rd floor. I could even put it on a string outside my window, and people could come, and I can just, roll it down, and then, put it on a. We're going to figure this out. This isn't something to waste time on now, but Kathleen and I will discuss this. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I know that RedBar has been doing a lot of charitable efforts and trying to raise some money to, help everyone out that's been impacted in New York. Can you guys tell me a little bit about what's going on with that and what you guys have done?
Yeah.
This is Kathleen's domain.
So it all kind of started, well, first of all, I just wanted to kind of mention that from the beginning of the start of RedBar as an actual corporate entity, we really wanted to spend a good portion of whatever our energies and time and money we could on giving back to charity. Let's be real, our hobby is one of luxury, right? I'm going to say a bold statement. I don't need this.
Heresy.
I mean, emotionally I need it, right? But physically I don't need it to survive, right? So
nobody needs a watch anymore.
Of the people that are, part of our collector community, a good portion, not everybody, but a lot of the people that are in our collector community are fortunate enough to be able to afford nice watches. And, you know, we like to encourage people to give back to the communities that they live in. And specifically, we like to encourage people to give back locally. So we have a lot of chapters that like will, you know, volunteer work in their own communities. You know, we here in New York tend to support local charities, specifically around homelessness, but some other causes as well. And so that was already kind of in our wheelhouse. Like the watch we did with Oris, Oris donated $50,000 of the proceeds of that watch to our charitable fund, which we established at the beginning, you know, and I'll explain the charitable fund a little bit. Originally, we wanted to incorporate as a 501c3. We talked to our accountant and attorney. He's two mints in one. He's an accountant and an attorney. And he was like, yeah,
cost effective.
The IRS is going to ask you what you do for your fundraising activities. And they're going to be like, hang out in bars and look at watches. And they're going to be like, no, we're not going to allow you.
It was a tough sell.
It was a tough sell. So basically what we did was we formed as an LLC. And then we found a community foundation that is a 501c3 that administers charitable funds for other people. So they take on all of the tax filings, they take on all of that stuff for a very small fee, and they allow us to make grants to various other 501c3s in the United States. So
and that's key. We can't pull a Trump and commission a $10,000 portrait of myself to hang in our office because that's not a 501c3. Yeah, so it does keep us honest. Not that we need that. Kathleen doesn't. I do.
I don't need that. But so, for example,
I wanted that portrait. Sorry.
Yeah, I know you want the portrait of your feet, but it's not going to happen. So what we did, the first thing I saw, like right when all of the shutdowns started to happen here in the U.S., especially in New York, is, you know, our governor shut down restaurants and bars on March 16th. And literally 24 of my friends lost their jobs immediately because they all work in restaurants and bars. And let's be fair, this is what we do. We gather in restaurants and bars. So I started volunteering with a foundation that was raising money and providing grants to restaurant and bar workers that were suddenly out of a job. And as we know in the United States, our system for paying these people is real fucked up, and we pay them very little money and they live on tips, and so it put a lot of people in an emergency situation. And so I started getting involved in like understanding what that need was. But then I also was like, well, there's like Adam volunteers at a shelter that you know, on a regular basis. And I'm the chair of the board of a local charity here called Bailey House, which helps homeless New Yorkers. And so we kind of went, we should make some grants, first of all, because we had some money in our charitable fund from last year. And so we made some grants to those charities. And then we started seeing, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we started just kind of raising funds. And you know, we did a pen with Ian Schoen, who is based in Philly, who makes pens, and he also made this watch, actually. Which is,
by the way, if David, who runs our London chapter and our Scottish guy, if he's watching, fuck you, because I wanted that pen, but I didn't have enough money. All right, go on.
We did a one-off pen.
Seriously.
He won. We did another fundraiser for the first limited edition watch that we ever did in conjunction with Maurice Lacroix. They still had one that they had held back for their museum or collection, and so we raised money for that. And that one was really cool because the auction for that watch on Instagram raised $2,500. The winning bid was also David from our London chapter.
Yeah, but I have that watch, so he's fine to have that, but I want the pen.
But then I get a text from Doc Jeff, who is named on the poster that's behind Adam's head. He is
Dapper.
the co-founder, like he's basically the second ever RedBar member, he's the co-founder.
We
Like,
did this together. Yeah, that's the two of us. The whole other story, we won't get into it, but the doc.
Jeff texts me and he goes, how much did the Maurice Lacroix go for? And because he owns one also. And I was like, $2,500. And he's like, cool. Get me all the donation info for the charity, because we raised the money to support the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And he's like,
Awesome.
match it. So we
Nice.
raised $2,500 through the auction on the watch. We doubled that with surprise double through the generosity of one of our members. And so I am making our part of that grant literally live right now on our fund site, which I had queued up, and I'm submitting it at this moment. So there we go. It went out in the ether. But so the cool thing about that is, we've been able to make a little bit of a difference. We've been able to kind of shine a light on some of these charities. We're able to give back a little bit, which I think is super important in these times. Like we love having fun and like playing with watches and hanging out and drinking probably to excess. But if we can we can put a little bit of good back out into the world, then we really want to do that. And we have some more coming up, actually. We've got another, stay tuned, everyone. There's going to be another one that's like a package of RedBar stuff that's going to be pretty cool, that we're going to do more as a raffle style, like what Analog Shift is doing. I don't know if you saw that, Wei, but there's a watch that Jason Heaton used to own, and he's
been fucking awesome. He's been a superstar too with this shit.
He did a fundraiser for this Doxa that he had owned in Ward Diving, and now the person who won it is partnering with Analog Shift and a charity of another RedBar member called Brightsiders to auction that off also, to like raise money for Big Brothers Big Sisters. And they're not doing it auction style, they're doing it like raffle style. So you just, any donation you
buy in,
to
That's awesome.
win. So we're seeing like all of these, and like Heaton did it, James Stacy did one, the guy from RedBar Denver did one for the Equal Justice Initiative, like people and stuff. And actually you guys did your auction as well.
That's the other thing, first of all, it's not something that we talk about that much. I feel like we should talk about it more. There's a part of me and Kathleen and again, James Lambda, we mentioned, he's one of our partners, that we feel like it's a little self-aggrandizing, but a lot of people are like, well, what do? You're just making money on blah, blah, blah. Like, no, first of all, if you want to make money, don't do what we're doing here. But there was always that thought that if our hobby and what we're doing is just basically helping grown men play with their metal Barbie dolls, that you have to give something back. And that was always important to me. And when Kathleen and James and I sat down and thought, how do we make this a little more streamlined and professional, just so that we can grow it? The first thing with each of us was like, we have to give back. Like, how do we do this? It was as important to Kathleen as it was to James, as it was to me. And that's one thing I love about you, Wei, and just so we can talk a little bit about what you guys were doing, that you're still the first and basically the only, I hate to say it, entity within our industry that really put something together to focus on COVID, to focus on really the challenge that we're facing right now, that is going to be a defining one for our era. And I would like to hear a little bit about how that came about. It's actually not a conversation we've had before.
Well, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. We work in luxury, right? And actually we, sort of talk about things that are completely unnecessary, as you were saying, Kathleen. And I really think that the underlying ethics of whatever brands are working in this industry are going to be looked at very carefully after we come out of this period, which hopefully is sooner rather than later. And I think that what we purchase is basically a declaration to the world about the type of world that we want to live in and the type of people that we want to support. And I'd seen like all the brands were making pretty incredible efforts. Like I love the fact that Jean-Christophe Babin actually is helping to finance the Oxford vaccine. I think that's just incredible, right?
Oh, we had Bulgari making hand sanitizer.
Exactly, hand sanitizer, and they bought that electron microscope as well for that hospital in Italy, and everyone was kind of like pitching in, and I really respect that, you know. And then I was just sitting around, and I remember our friend Davide Girato had sent me the new Mont Blanc geosphere in titanium, right? And it's got these two kind of domed globes on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching the news at the same time, and I'm kind of flipping through the channels, and you can see the spread of COVID just like hitting one country after another. And it's kind of, it's really terrifying. And then the thing was that there was, even the countries that were like in the throes of COVID, there were other countries where they hadn't, it was just starting to happen. And a lot of those countries didn't really have the medical infrastructure to even handle basic healthcare, you know? Immediately the thought would be like, shit, these guys they're gonna be fucked. And when so looking at that watch, you know, the point about that watch is I always like to hear about astronauts that go into space and then they look back at the Earth and they realize, you know, it's basically just one planet and everyone's kind of on it together and everyone's in on this together, right? You know, it's been a shitty year. Everyone's fucked, but the whole world is unilaterally fucked. It's not that one country is fucked and another country isn't. And I started talking to my team, and I have to really shout out to Ross Povey here, who's my editor over in the UK, and he was like, we got to do something, you know? And then so we just started reaching out to the brands with this idea of doing a charity auction for COVID solidarity. And I have to say the brands were just amazing. You know, like I think one of the first guys that I reached out to was Jean-Marc Pontoy over at Panerai. And he was like, absolutely, and I want to give you a prototype of the new Carbotech Luminor Merino. He actually gave us a couple of watches to choose from. You know, and that's a pretty substantial watch in terms of its value.
Yes,
you know, Carl Friedrich Schäufele, he was like, what about if I give you the prototype of this watch that was worn by, you know, Ryan Reynolds in 600 pounds? We're like, yeah, that's amazing. George Kern was great. He was like, you know, let me think about it. Then his team was like, we're going to give you George's personal watch. And
off his wrist.
Off of his wrist, you know, one after the other. You know, Van Cleef gave us that insane watch that was, you know, has this tremendous value to it. But every single guy, and as I mentioned to you earlier, it wasn't even brands. And then guys, you know, readers started pitching as well, right? Readers were like, I want to donate this watch, you know, and then the Rake jumped in as well, and all the tailors got into it. And in the end, it was purely a result of all of those guys. We just became kind of the galvanizer. And I do want to kind of shout out also Time and Tide in Australia, because I was thinking, has anyone done this before? Then I was like, yeah, you know, during the Australian fires, Time and Tide, they put something together too, and they did a great job of that as well. So I have to say,
we donated to that also, I think.
Yes, we did, exactly. And I have to say, it was that community, and it made me really happy to be working in the watch community as well, because it showed you that the brands, like they're fundamentally just great people, and everyone's trying to, you know, do the right thing in that context. And then, you know, we reached out to the audience, to the collector community, and they just crushed it for us. I mean, they just kicked so much ass. We started the auction, and we just couldn't believe it. And it lasted for a week. And, you know, I mean, I think the first day we'd already raised something like 70, 80 grand. And already I was kind of happy with that. And then by the time the smoke cleared, it was $280,000. It was pretty cool. And then, you know, what we did in the end was, because there was a lot of people who were like, well, can I send the money to this charity or that charity? In the end, we said, listen, as long as it's a legit COVID charity, you can tell us where you want to donate the money to be donated to. And there was two guys who had a specific request, but then for everyone else, they were like, no, you guys figure it out. So what we ended up doing was we worked with Save the Children in Sudan and in India. And then we worked with the Red Cross in Italy, Mexico, and the NHS in the UK, and we dispersed the funds sort of equally to that. But you know, like I really admire what you guys have been doing. So what I'd like to offer is I'd like to give you guys the #1 Harnhart watch for your next charity auction, if you guys are willing to accept that. You know.
Okay. I know Kathleen didn't expect that. I did not expect that.
I'm down.
Okay. Yes.
Usually we save the #1s for. I usually buy them, but I'll hold that watch. I've held that watch back, and I've to you guys for the charity, whatever charity.
You're hearing it here first, people. And Wei, thank you.
Cute.
And yes, we will do that. And it's I'm going to go to a great cause.
Awesome.
And not a portrait of me.
We are not.
Or my feet. That's really thoughtful.
Yes, thank you.
No.
Amazing.
And again, it's such an amazing watch, but really, Wei, thank you.
And
thank you.
You know, guys, like I've always said, like I love what you guys do as a community. And I love the fact that it's always about inclusivity and bringing people together without any sort of like, snobbishness, or whether that's intellectual or commercial or financial. And there's a real genuineness to the RedBar community that I love, and I couldn't think of a better cause than a charity auction that you guys are organizing. So we'll hook that up for you.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, and again, look at me. Like, we can't do a snobby thing because it's me.
I mean, yeah.
Kathleen can be snobby. She actually cleans up very well.
I do clean up very nicely, but you don't. But you're kind of, like the thing about this whole thing,
Wow.
we are very inclusive, and like our community is very much like, you don't have to know anything about watches. You just have to be interested in them, and you can show up and ask the most basic questions, and everybody in our community is happy to share their knowledge because, that's all they want to talk about anyway. But the thing about our community that I love, and I have seen this come back and come out through all of this dystopian hellscape that we're living through, which is people that, like, the community. It's about the people. It's like it started about the things, but it's really about the people. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that, and we'll coordinate all the details. But I think it's amazing. Thank you so much.
No, guys, I mean, I think the thing that I love about watches is that they can be used as something that really helps to edify and uplift like people and communities, and one of my favorite stories is a guy that you introduced me to, Adam, and Kathleen, Greg, who's your chapter president out in Chicago. And the story about him and particularly Panerai, and how like that watch that he was given by that community was so meaningful to him, and really kind of gave him this brotherhood or sisterhood. I think that watches in that way can be incredible galvanizers of friendship and of genuineness and of passion.
Well, you get it. Obviously Kathleen gets it, and I get it because that's what we do. But on one level, yes, it can be a little douchey, and it can be one-upping and what have you. But if you're part of this community, we get this question a lot. Does somebody join and then they're an asshole and you got to get rid of them? And to be honest, it's not a huge problem for us, because if you want to come and hang with us, by definition, you're into it for the right reasons. But then you have these stories of these people, like Greg and there are others where the community came together. And let's be honest, it doesn't have to be watches. Maybe we're part of a knitting circle. I don't know, but we happen to not be. We're about watches. And it really does make me happy to see that. And even with the COVID crisis, we're about meeting in person. We're about being hands-on. And so all of a sudden that's taken away from us. Oh my God, we're dead in the water. Turns out, no, we're not, because thank God we have the technology, but the community was already so solid that right off the bat, people we're going to do Zooms. We're going to get on IG. We're going to do everything we can. And half the time you're not even, I hate to say, you're not even talking about watches. Nice. Kathleen and I at RedBar, we meet at the same bar every week. We'll be off in the corner just bitching about life. We're not even talking about watches.
Yeah, this happened. It was really interesting for us to see, because like at the very beginning of this, like especially with New York was hit so hard in March and April. And
we got slammed in the beginning.
And like, there were a bunch of folks like checking in on each other and stuff. And then we started to see our other chapters, because there was closures everywhere, and we started like see all of our other chapters going, oh, we're gonna do a Zoom and we're gonna check in on each other, and like everybody, like it was, like I said, it's people were talking about watches. Like we attended a number of them. In fact, we've gotten to go to various local RedBar chapters more.
Oh yeah, we visited more chapters now than when we could actually fly.
Yeah, I went to 5 or 6 in a like week's time.
You've been in some weird places.
We're in very geographically diverse places, and
You get in weird places physically, let's be honest, but yeah.
But like people were like, oh, let's do a wrist check. But then everybody was talking about other stuff. Like, they're just checking it, they're making sure that everybody's doing okay. Half of the RedBar community adopted dogs at this time. I mean, I think everybody.
When I bugged out to Connecticut in the beginning of this with my family, I had people saying, like Vasu, our member, who NYC Watch Guy, is a collection that honestly I will do a home invasion, murder him, and take them at some point. But
that's awesome.
He lives in my neighborhood, my mother's neighborhood. He has offered on several occasions, Adam, I'll go check on Dr. Mom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Does she need anything? Let me know. I will just leave it downstairs. Then the concierge can bring it up or whatever. And it was genuine. It was literally like, if I called him up at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, look, you got to go over to my mom. I'm driving in, but he would have been there.
He would have totally done it. And he would have fed the cat too, because he's a cat guy.
He is a cat guy, but fuck Harvey Wallbanger. I don't like that cat. I feed him, I clean up his shit, and I take him to the vet, and I get nothing in return. So, fuck you, Harvey. Sorry, that's not what we're talking about. Kathleen, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I'm like, the thing that I've always said, I've actually, as from the time I started coming to RedBar and till now, it's always been about the people. It really has always been about the people. And then it's even more evident to me now to see the community kind of come together and support each other and support other people who are less fortunate. Like you can't shelter in place if you are unhoused. So people are like, let's do something about that. And I love that people are, just kind of all throughout our community are coming together and doing stuff in their own communities, national charities, international charities, and like trying to, make the best of, like I said, what the dystopian hellscape that we're currently living through, but, and also belching. So thank you again, Wei.
I feel like when a dog farts, they always look surprised.
You genuinely do look surprised.
And yet I do it all the time.
You can't.
You think I'd be used to it by now?
Very gassy man.
A lot of gas. But no, I feel like we want to say good night. We're almost at 9 o'clock. We've been almost on for an hour. I think that's the limit of people's patience. But are we done?
We have one.
So we do
one more thing to talk about.
Yeah, and so I know, Adam, you'd mentioned earlier that you're saving money for a purchase, and I noticed that you've got the Bulgari cover on the background. So one of my favorite watches is the Bulgari Octo Finissimo, and I was really blown away by the chronograph that they launched last year. I remember that launch in Basel. It's amazing to think about that just being a year ago, and that was the last Basel, incredibly.
Oh, geez, who knew?
Exactly.
You kind of saw it. It was weird last year, right? Like
it was strange.
Yeah. Like we saw each other a couple times there, and we were kind of like,
Yes.
But
wait, come on.
Go ahead.
So then I spoke to Fabrizio Buonamassa and Jean-Christophe Babin, and I was like, hey guys, what do you think if we did a version of that watch, but we made it kind of a little bit more sporty and a little bit more tool watch like? And so Fabrizio's like, okay, in that case, let's take that watch, let's put a tachymeter in the bezel, right? Which, they have another chrono with an El Primero in it that's got a tachymeter, but it's a totally different case. So to put it on a bezel that's that thin was a little bit of a challenge. And then he's like, okay, but the watch has got to be luminous. Then he calls me up and goes, hey, I got a problem because the indexes and the hands are so thin, we can't get lume on it. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, but I have a solution. Why don't we just make the whole dial luminous? Then you can use it in the dark. You can time things. You can tell the second time zone, all of that. So without further ado, here is the Bulgari Octo Finissimo, which is the Revolution Edition with the fully luminous dial, night vision
I've had
special.
to keep my mouth shut about this for so long, and it's been pissing me off. Wei has been torturing me with photos and videos. There was a lunch with Fabrizio and their new marketing. And they're just like, hey, I'm like, fuck you guys. I need to tell everybody. So yeah, I'm broke as shit. Not really, because my wife holds all the money because we need to actually feed our children. But
Right.
this is killing me. I've been in love with this watch. I did have one as a loaner for a while, the basis of this. Again, let's talk about value, and we're going to let you go real quickly. But what I was struck with when I was kind enough to, when Francis, I love you, Francis. I know you're not looking right now, but Francis from Bulgari lent me the watch for a couple weeks. The Chrono GMT Octo Finissimo to me is one of the few watches at this price point that is worth what they're asking for. Like, it's just a mind-blowing watch. The amount of engineering that goes into making something this thin and functional. But for me, what always struck me with a sport watch was that I know it's a moot point, really we don't need it, but I want to tell time in the dark. And that was the issue with this thing. It has to have a little bit of lume on it, and you couldn't do it with this watch because it's so mind-blowingly thin.
Yeah.
And that was the solution, and it is killing me.
I'm glad you like it.
Super cool. I mean, you can see how much lume, like how batshit the lume is on that just in the light. Like, you know, like you don't even
Yes.
lume it up.
Oh no.
Black.
No, I have video of them walking into a bathroom and turning the light off, and it's like you can see in the bathroom. It's
Exactly.
That's,
Well, you know, because that dial is so thin, it's like, I think like 0.2 mm thin, and then the indexes are actually galvanically grown and then pasted onto the dial. So there's, you know, it's just too thin. But you know, it was funny because I was showing this to someone on the team, and that's the watch you want to like rock up to the club in. You know,
oh yeah, yeah.
You can help people find their cocaine that they dropped with the
exactly.
But
you joke about that, but I remember the 80s.
Yeah. No, I've been in that situation before when I was younger and didn't have a heart condition. But it really is an amazing watch, and I know that there's going to be some stuff around when you launch it that you can talk about a little more. But it's just people. You're the first one seeing it. I was actually surprised.
No one's seen it.
Talk about it now. No one is. This is literally. Like, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for this for so fucking long. You talked about this with me in Dubai.
Yes.
The
cool thing about this watch,
another world ago.
Yeah, the cool thing about this watch is we're trying to get it basically at pretty much the same price as the standard watch, which that's what we were discussing before.
Yeah.
And of course, there'll be a charitable dimension to that as well. So we're figuring that out too. The only, I guess, issue we have with the watch is they only wanted to make 20 of them. So we've got 20 watches. So if anyone's interested, obviously we want to pick up the red first.
Yeah, well, I already have one. So
Adam's got his.
If there's 19, then I think you're getting one. So that's 18.
Yeah. Yes.
Fabrizio probably wants one.
Exactly.
Yeah, so now there's 17. But it's an amazing watch. Again, it's a price point that's not necessarily my personal comfort zone, but I am going to I'm going to make it happen. But it their value is at every level. But this is something I just thank you for I mean, I have so little to be happy about these days. My children don't get any nicer. My wife just doesn't like me at all. Kathleen never liked me, to be perfectly honest. That's why she's here. She keeps me honest. And so there's very little in my life that is good. This is good.
This is much. And honestly, like I agree with you, Wei, that the Octo Finissimo is probably one of my favorite watches to come out in recent memory. Like, that is just the way that they've, like, first of all, the thinness is mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And then
it's crazy.
But the thought and engineering details that go into the case and the bracelet. The bracelet, to me, the first time I ever tried on an Octo Finissimo, I was like, this bracelet is
you remember that shit.
The fucking best bracelet. It's the best bracelet.
You remember that shit. You remember that.
Yes.
And then in the new steel, I'm sorry, give me that shit over a fucking Nautilus.
Yes.
I'm just saying, it's bracelet, fight me. But it's like, seriously, it's an amazing piece, and that is phenomenal. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, guys.
What
And
is the release date you're looking at, just so people have an idea?
I think we're looking at third week of September. So end of September, and with the watches being delivered around then, if not early October. Yeah, we're
Fucking
still
amazing.
working. Thank you, sir.
Wow.
Kathleen, thank you so much.
Of course.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for talking. Like, again, people, I'll be talking about more personally and posting photos of the hand heart to everybody in the city who's watching. I am going to try to figure out a way to kind of get out, let people see this piece, because it's amazing. Now you know why I might not get one, although I might probably still get one. Just because I do have a big purchase coming up, and the Bulgari is insane. But you know, Wei, again, everything that you've been doing, I know it sounds like it's just a mutual admiration society. We're just blowing sunshine up each other's asses, but this is a good sunshine that should go up our good asses. No, sometimes doing the right thing is not always the easiest thing. For us, you know, Kathleen and I, it's always been important that we give back, and that's something that you've always believed in too. And you put your money where your mouth is. So I think it's okay for us every now and then to maybe talk about that a little bit. And thank you.
Thank you, guys, and it's been a pleasure. And thanks to the whole RedBar community for joining us. And you know, stay safe, guys. You know, have a Negroni on me, and take care of yourselves.
All right.
All righty. Everybody be safe.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.